I encountered my husband's affair, which inevitably led to divorce. On eve of divorce, my husband entered my room unexpectedly.
Hey, warm me up.
If you want warmth, find it elsewhere. I'm Dina, 32, a part-time housewife. I've been married to my husband Sean for 5 years. I loved my job and didn't want to have children. My husband agreed, and we planned to continue living together as a couple for a long time. Despite agreeing to a childless marriage, lately Sean's been wanting to have kids.
People start wanting kids as they age, I guess. They'll be cute too, I'm sure. Besides, people say you're not complete until you become a parent.
But I want to focus on my career. I don't want kids. Sure, relatives' kids are cute, but raising my own? I doubt I'd be able to love them. Besides, I keep telling you, I want to work. Even full-fledged adults get into trouble and get divorced. Despite being raised by a full-fledged adult, why are there children who still engage in bullying, I wonder? After all, the presence or absence of children does not determine whether or not one is a good person. There are people who do well if they have children, and there are also people who are respectable even if they don't have children.
Well, people like you who say that and don't have children are much more childish.
I was so shocked to hear my husband's response. I wondered how he was going to raise a child with such a narrow-minded way of thinking. Then I made a proposal. I have no intention of having children for the rest of my life, so if you want children, get a divorce. I say that and my husband seems flustered.
No, I didn't mean...
But he brings up the topic again later. I tell him that if he wants kids, he should divorce and remarry, but he doesn't do it. He also seems reluctant to give up our lifestyle. With my decent income, we can't afford luxury without it. This apartment has been mine ever since I was single. Sean also looks like he dreads returning to our previous life. He's torn between having kids or living comfortably. However, our relationship worsens each day, and our conversations dwindle. The word strained is finally starting to come into my mind when describing our relationship. Over this past year, conversations with my husband have been practically non-existent. He's been coming home late at night more often, and sometimes even without notice. At first, I asked what he had been up to, but I stopped bothering as his responses were dismissive and unrelated. I figured if it was work-related, he'd say so. Not saying anything must mean it's not worth mentioning. Still, some affection for my husband lingered. I couldn't bring myself to initiate talk of divorce, but after a year of this cold marriage, even I couldn't stand it. I guess it's about time to gather evidence of his affair and promptly file for divorce, huh? It had come to that point. One day I found out I had to go on a business trip. I'll have a week or so during the trip to think things through. Maybe we can have a serious discussion when I return. With that in mind, as I finished packing and headed to the living room, I found my husband, who rarely comes home early. Oh, I'm going on a week-long trip starting tomorrow.
Okay.
His lackluster response was as good as saying he had no interest in me at all. Our relationship has completely chilled. He used to tell me to be careful wherever I went, but now I glimpsed at his phone screen to find an abundance of heart emojis. Oh, exchanging messages with your affair partner, huh? Quite the busy bee.
Stop snooping around people's phones. It's your fault for making it so obvious, but I can't help but get irritated by your petty complaints.
Gathering evidence of your affair seems easy enough, just so you know. But just to be sure, I'm warning you. Don't bring that other woman here while I'm away on my trip. It seems like my husband takes pride in living in this luxury condo. I often hear him boasting to his fling on the phone.
The view from my place is amazing.
He's the kind of guy who shamelessly makes affair calls in front of me, his wife. When I hinted at not knowing what he might do while I'm gone, he said boldly,
I'm not cheating.
Do you seriously think you haven't gotten caught yet?
Ugh, you're suspecting me of cheating? Such a terrible wife.
There's a 2-shot photo of him and another woman stuck on the back of his phone. Of course the other woman isn't me. Most likely it's her. Oh, how sad.
I'm being suspected by my wife. I'm so sad.
So sad that you'll crawl into the cold bed and sleep early? Shall I warm it up for you? Of course, that's a joke.
If there's still hope for us as a couple, why don't you try?
He laughs in response, but my husband calls me creepy and is coldly shutting himself off, essentially. Well, I knew it though. That we as a couple were already over. I understand it well. What's not understood is the current situation and my husband still clinging to this condo. Doesn't he really understand that there's no point in continuing together as a couple? Once I return from the trip, I'll consult with a lawyer right away. I resolved and went to bed to go to sleep. So the next morning, without waking my husband, I left the house directly for my business trip. There, I met with my boss and colleagues and got to work. For the next few days, I was busy with work in the limited time available to me. The trip was incredibly busy, but once it was over, it went smoothly, and I was able to finish a day earlier than planned. Our boss said, well done, and we dispersed. It's a day early, but oh well. I rushed home. During the trip, in between work, I have been looking for a lawyer, and there are several candidates. I'll get back soon and contact each of them to see who's the best. I have to make a decision. With this thought in mind, I walked lightly and swiftly to our apartment. Opening the door with a clang, I froze in my tracks. That jerk really did it, didn't he? Ahead of my gaze, at the entrance, were some woman's shoes. Despite telling him not to bring another woman here, all I could see was red. But I quickly regained my composure. On second thought, this could be an opportunity. If I can get solid evidence, I can save the trouble of hiring a detective. I swiftly grabbed my phone and silently entered the room. I sensed someone in my husband's room. With a bang, I swung the door open wide and immediately snapped a photo with my phone camera. Whoa, it's blinding. The screams of my husband and the woman echoed through the room. So there I was, encountering my husband's affair scene, and I triumphantly captured evidence of it. By the way, the husband and the woman with whom he is having an affair are in bed and having a lovey-dovey time. I got a picture of his shocked face, stunned by this unspeakable situation. Also, the woman turned out to be a subordinate from my husband's company. I informed her of my intention to seek compensation for damages and asked her to leave. While she continued to sob uncontrollably, my husband, in contrast, remained sullen and unhappy even after his affair partner left. When I asked if he had anything to say, he muttered something or other, making me want to punch him. Why are you so angry when you're the one who cheated?
Hey, wasn't the trip until tomorrow?
I came back early because it finished early. What's wrong with returning to my own home?
I feel like punching your ugly face and making it even uglier.
His furious response left me both angry and bewildered. Anyway, let's consult a lawyer and discuss divorce.
I'm not getting a divorce, you idiot.
Are you still refusing to divorce at this point? In a way that's pretty impressive mentally. I decided it was pointless to talk with my husband alone, so I refused to engage in any further discussion with him. We quickly selected a lawyer, and negotiations for divorce progressed. Anyway, my husband still doesn't want a divorce. He remained stubborn, but the undeniable evidence clinched it, and we decided on divorce through mutual consent. Well, no surprise there. No matter how skilled a lawyer may be, defending my husband would be tough. At best, they could only reduce the compensation fee. My husband insisted the affair was my fault, because I rejected having children, but that's no excuse for cheating. Besides, we had agreed from the start that we wouldn't have children. Anyway, regardless of the reason, there's no justification for infidelity, so that settles it. My husband keeps grumbling, and our relationship has hit rock bottom. And finally, tomorrow is the day we submit the divorce papers. My husband, as usual, hasn't moved out of the apartment. Once the divorce is finalized, I intend to sell the apartment. Even though I'm still living here, I've almost settled on a new place, so it's likely I won't be here much longer. When I submit the divorce papers, I'll kick my husband out anyway. Since the apartment belongs to me, there are plenty of ways to evict him, even if it's just on paper. Anyway, just a little more patience. As I curled up in my bed, suddenly the door creaked open. When I looked towards the door, there stood my husband. Hey, can you hurry up and leave? My careless mistake was not locking the door, as my husband had not visited my room and has seemed to be avoiding me. But that didn't mean he's allowed to intrude. When I got up and glared at him, he, unfazed, approached and complained about the cold. I told him to go back to his room and get under the covers, but he insisted he was cold. What are you doing? After giving him a contemptuous look, my husband climbed into my bed.
Ugh, it's so cold. Warm me up.
Hey, that's so creepy.
Come on, warm me up.
He wouldn't listen to my screams. My husband just covered me, and in that instant my body moved faster than my thoughts. Ah! While screaming, I grabbed my husband's arm and twisted. You pervert! I wrapped my arm around his back and exerted my full weight on him. I'm glad I learned self-defense. It's self-defense, you know.
Ow, 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 ow.
I'm gonna call the police. Despite my husband's cries of pain, this wasn't like I was wrestling him like a pro. As I continued to hold down his arm, my husband's voice gradually turned into sobs.
I just wanted you to keep me warm on our last night as a couple.
But we're not a couple anymore, so I don't have to do that.
Please, even in this state, you're still saying that?
As I shook my head in disbelief, I heard my husband sniffling. Then I suddenly had a thought. Well, it's certainly a shame for our marriage to end like this. Of course, not because I'm sentimental or anything. It's because of this man that I have to let go of the apartment. Because he used our apartment for his affair, I decided I didn't want to keep it. So maybe it's okay for him to suffer a bit more. With that thought, I let go of his hand. Have you learned your lesson? As my husband abruptly sat up, it seemed like he was about to jump at me again, so I threw a pillow at him. And then, telling him to wait, I left the room. There he was, my foolish husband, waiting obediently, simple-minded to the core. After a while, I returned to the room. I had prepared this and that.
Huh? What in the world are you doing?
What? These are hand warmers. Being a scatterbrain, I always have a bunch of these. I sit on the bed and place them all around my husband, who's sitting there. I make sure they're all over him, to the point where he can't move, even over his pajamas.
Hey, what are you doing?
Shut up.
I told you I wanted to be warmed up, but there are too many.
If you're going to complain, I'll shut you up myself. And I proceeded to stick one in my husband's mouth. Kids, don't try this at home. And then, once I finished doing that, I set up the electric heater in the room. And here's a bottle with hot water for you. Hug it tight. I press it against my husband's chest. With a hand warmer removed from his mouth, my husband panics.
So you're just gonna warm me up with these? Come on, that's just nonsense. What a killjoy.
This is why you're getting divorced for cheating. And as a finishing touch, here's the ultimate blanket. It's my favorite blanket because it's incredibly warm. Here, take it and be thankful. And I wrap it around him. And to finish it off, I quickly pull the drawstring from his hoodie and tie it tightly over the blanket, in case the blanket comes off and you get cold. Yeah, I'm so kind, huh?
No, I'm hot.
But you asked to be warmed up, right? You've warmed up enough by now. Don't hold back, even if you catch a cold. You'll have to live alone starting tomorrow. So let's get divorced already.
What are you even saying at this point?
I throw a pillow at him. But seriously, it's getting unbearably hot in here. If I can endure this for the night, maybe I'll reconsider the divorce. With that parting shot, I leave the room. Well, I did plan to stop before it got dangerous, but less than a minute later, there was a loud bang against the door. What? What's going on? When I opened it, I found my husband rolled up like a sushi roll on the floor. Oh, you couldn't open the door?
I'm sorry for everything. I'll take the divorce, so can I have some water?
My husband, now a sweaty mess with tears and snot, lies there pleading. He's such a pushover. The next day, my husband left the house. It seemed like he thought it'd be best not to stick around any longer. Well, actually, I had other plans in mind, but I was planning on making him leave anyway, so it's good he left early. And with my lawyer, I successfully filed for divorce. And I was officially single again, while my husband became my ex-husband. He'll pay the alimony in installments. If the woman doesn't pay up, I want her employer to deduct it directly from her salary, so both my ex-husband and his mistress's employer are aware of the situation. Maybe that's why rumors started circulating at their workplace about my ex-husband and his mistress. People say that gossip spreads like wildfire, and it's true. Who could have spread the rumors? Thanks to that, they were both looked down upon, and the woman apparently quit her job. Since she had already paid the alimony by then, I didn't care. But just for your information, my ex-husband seems to be struggling with his job while living frugally. Even his exasperated parents have given up on him. He probably doesn't have the confidence to quit his job and live on his own. However, he's apparently struggling to make ends meet with the alimony payments. I received a few calls for reconciliation, but I ignored them all. It got so persistent that my lawyer had to intervene before they finally stopped. As for me, I sold the condo unit as planned and moved out early. The best way to deal with bad memories is to make new ones. My new life in the new apartment is comfortable. I've come to realize that I'm not just cut out for marriage. Maybe things would have turned out differently if we had children, but a man who cheats will find another excuse to do so even if he has kids. What's important in marriage varies from person to person, but I believe the most important thing is to have a caring heart for your partner. If I ever find myself in a relationship again, I want to choose someone who will be kind to me. But for now, I'm enjoying being single and excelling at work.